I like how they try to make it, like, enjoyable there. Like, I don't even, like, I don't want to enjoy life there, but, like, it's just sad. Like, I don't know.
No, that's a rehabilitative. See, that's how jail is supposed to rehabilitate people.
But I don't need to be rehabilitated. Like, I don't need that.
You.
Like,
I know you don't.
I feel like I want to live off the grid. Like, and I'm just been thinking about, like, how I'm just going to be, like, old when I get out of jail. And, like, I don't know, like, I'm not going to be able to have kids or, like, a family and shit like that. Like,
I don't need to be rehabilitated. That's what Mackenzie Shirilla told her mother from a jail phone. 2 young men were dead. She was the only one who walked away. And her concern, her actual concern, was that she might be too old to have children when she gets out. But that phone call wasn't even the most disturbing part of this case. Because according to prosecutors, the crash that killed Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan wasn't a tragedy. It wasn't panic. It wasn't a medical emergency. It was a decision, made at nearly 100 miles per hour. And the evidence that led investigators to that conclusion is the kind of stuff that keeps people up at night. And now, with a Netflix documentary pulling this case back into the spotlight, people aren't just talking about Mackenzie. They're talking about her parents too. About the choices they made long before that summer morning. About what they knew, and what they were apparently fine with. We're going to walk through the 7 most disturbing details of this case. And by the time we get to the last one, you'll understand why this story never really went away. Before we get into it, what's the part of this case that shocked you the most the first time you heard it? Drop your input in the comments, because I guarantee someone else had the exact same reaction. Now, let's talk about what really happened. On July 31, 2022, in Strongsville, Ohio, a Caucus suburb of Cleveland, a Toyota Camry slammed into a commercial brick building in the early hours of the morning. Officers arrived to find all 3 occupants unconscious, not breathing, and trapped inside the vehicle.
We ain't going out, okay? Okay, 21's gonna go. 31's gonna go.
I copy. 2131. They said that there are clear, and that the female's classic caller while he was rambling, not making sense.
What's your name, dear? Mackenzie. Okay. All right. By 7 radio.
Go ahead.
You have Mackenzie's information, correct?
Affirmative.
That's our driver.
I got it.
She said one of her friends is named Dom. I don't know which one it was. I don't want to let you know.
Dom's Thanks. Don't tell her.
Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan were pronounced dead at the scene. Mackenzie Shirilla survived. And that survival, that single fact, became the question that sat at the center of everything. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because the crazy part about this case isn't about the crash itself. It's about what the car was doing in the seconds before it. The Toyota's event data recorder, the black box, revealed that Shirilla had her right foot pressed down on the acceleration pedal to its full extent. The service brake pedal was never applied before impact. The vehicle had no mechanical defects that contributed to the crash. Let that sit for a second. Full throttle, no brakes, no swerving. The car did not malfunction. The car did not skid. She drove at nearly 100 miles per hour down a dead-end street in a Strongsville business park and went straight into a brick wall. Because accidents look different. Accidents have skid marks. Accidents have last-second corrections. Accidents have a moment where the driver tried to stop what was happening. This had none of that. And that's when this stopped looking like a tragedy. And started looking intentional. Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Judge Nancy Margaret Russo said at the verdict reading, she had a mission and she executed it with precision. The mission was death. That's a judge, not a prosecutor, not a true crime commentator. A sitting judge who reviewed every piece of evidence in this case and used the word executed, and then she followed it with, this was not reckless driving. This was murder.
2 young men are dead. Their deaths were horrible, terrifying, and tragic. I will say again, if any reasonable person reviews Exhibit 802, there can be no doubt in your mind what happened in this room. There can be no doubt of the absolute terror of the 2 people in that car. The defendant controlled all the events. She chose the day. Specifically, she chose a day just before her 18th birthday. She chose to drive the car, the time to drive the car. She chose an obscure, previously scouted route through an industrial parkway. She chose the target to hit and the victims. She chose the means and the method to follow through. And she planned and purposefully executed the events of July 31st, 2022.
Prosecutors argued the location itself was deliberate, an isolated dead-end street in a business park at 5:30 in the morning. No witnesses, no traffic. A building sitting directly ahead, and a 17-year-old girl who, according to the prosecution, had been there before. Which brings us to detail 3. Prosecutors argued this wasn't some unfamiliar stretch of dark road that Mackenzie had stumbled onto. They believed she had driven that route before, that she knew exactly what was waiting at the end of that street. Think about what that actually means. Surveillance footage showed her driving normally before the speed picked up, calm, controlled. And then the accelerator goes to the floor, and she never lifts it. Does that sound like someone who suddenly lost consciousness? Or someone who knew precisely what was ahead? The defense put forward a medical argument, a condition called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, that they claimed could cause a sudden blackout at the wheel. But no medical records and no expert testimony confirming that diagnosis were ever presented at trial. The judge dismissed it, and the prosecution had something that made the medical story even harder to believe. 2 weeks before the crash, Shirilla was driving with Dominic as a passenger. They were in an argument. Dominic called his mother and asked to be picked up. A friend came to get him, and that friend was still on the phone with Dominic when he heard Mackenzie say, "I will crash this car right now." 2 weeks later, same car, same driver. In the month leading up to the crash, prosecutors said she made multiple threats toward Dominic. Videos recovered from his own phone showed her degrading him, threatening him, and damaging his property. She allegedly threatened to key his car, to break the handle off his door when he wouldn't let her inside. Text messages that were part of the police investigation showed Mackenzie writing things like, "I'm gonna kill someone," and messages expressing a desire to hurt herself. It was a relationship that had stopped being a relationship a long time before that morning. Prosecutors called this a breaking point. They argued that on July 31st, something finally broke. If you've been following this case, and there's something about the dynamic here that you think people are missing, or something that doesn't sit right with you, drop it in the comments. This case deserves that kind of honest conversation. Here's where the differences theory gets even more complicated. After the crash, the POTS argument was front and center. A medical emergency, an involuntary loss of consciousness, something beyond Mackenzie's control. But the car's own data didn't support it, because the black box didn't just show full acceleration. It showed steering movements and gear changes in the seconds immediately before impact. Someone was making inputs. Someone was actively controlling that vehicle right up until the moment of collision. And then in March 2023, prosecutors submitted additional evidence, and the medical examiner changed the official cause of death from accident to homicide. That change didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened in a medical examiner's office, based on the evidence. And it meant that even the people whose job it is to determine cause of death looked at everything in this case and landed in the same place as the prosecution. This is where opinions on this case tend to shift the hardest. After Mackenzie was released from the hospital, prosecutors said she attended a music concert in a wheelchair. A few months later, she celebrated Halloween by performing in a TikTok dance routine with friends, dressed in what appeared to be a corpse costume. Dominic and Davion had been dead for months.
Your Honor, there's very little that I can say after hearing from those who love Dominic and Davion in regards to the impact that the defendant's conduct had on these families' lives. And we have received a series of letters that have been submitted on behalf of the defendant. In summarizing these, they describe her as a good student and a loving and caring person, and that she could never do something like this. And they continually, despite the verdict, refer to this as an accident, an unfortunate accident, and tell you that she is also a victim. And there are just a few things that I think is important for the court to consider in determining a sentence today. Part of the evidence in this case and introduced in trial was evidence from the defendant's cell phone. There were search warrants executed on her various social media accounts, her school records, her medical records, things of this nature. And I think that who she actually was is directly contradictory to what is painted by the letter submitted on behalf of her today. Do you know how to make the video play? One moment now. I'm sorry, Judge, I thought we were set on this there. Thank you.
I'm not even cool. I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die.
Gotta figure like a pin, gotta figure like a doll. Don't care if you think I'm dumb, I don't care at all. Can best read if I wanna be adored. I'm the girl you die for.
Objection, Judge, none of this is introduced in the trial.
Shortly after the crash, Strongsville police were notified that they had received concerning emails from the community that the defendant and her mother were seeking employment with the Los Angeles modeling agency. Mackenzie Shirilla said to Vitali, "Thank you for the comment. I would love to work with you guys. I've been emailing you guys a lot. Such a great opportunity. Thank you."
Is there a date?
There is not a date on this, Your Honor. Based on the investigation, it was delivered to the police while the defendant was still in the Metro Health Hospital. So it was during that time period. She was in the hospital for several weeks. Shortly after being released from the hospital, the police were provided additional videos of the defendant from her wheelchair as she attended a concert down in the Flats. And again, Your Honor, I'm introducing these to the court to show the shocking lack of remorse. This was something that was being exhibited while the investigation was still going on, before she was charged and arrested in November of last year. And these were the sort of things that were coming to the police, and the shocking lack of remorse, coupled with the fact that the defendant was reported driving an automobile shortly after this event, that she was seen in Strongsville again driving a car, in spite of the fact that, as her mother testified, she got dizzy sometimes from a condition that she had to take salt pills for, in spite of the fact that it was in fact her mother who provided her with the car that she used to take Dominic and Davion's life. Halloween of last year, again, still before being charged, Mackenzie Shirilla celebrated Halloween with her friends at last year, so these would be post-crash, just before she was charged in November.
Then came the jail call. In audio obtained by People magazine, recorded during a call with her mother Natalie from the Cuyahoga County Jail, Mackenzie said, "That's how jail is supposed to rehabilitate people, but I don't need to be rehabilitated." And in another part of that same call, she talked about her fears for the future. "I'm thinking about how I'm just going to be old when I get out of jail, and I'm not going to be able to have kids or a family. 2 young men are dead." And the conversation is about her future family. For a lot of people who had followed this case from the beginning, that call changed everything. But then there's the parent question. And this is where the conversation got much bigger than Mackenzie. When Netflix dropped The Crash earlier this month, viewers weren't just reacting to Mackenzie's prison interview. They were reacting to her parents. Her father, Steve, a school teacher, admitted in the documentary that he was aware his underage daughter had been experimenting with substances and was largely unbothered by it. He also confirmed that he allowed his 17-year-old daughter to move in with her 20-year-old boyfriend. Because, as he put it, even though she was 17, we felt she was mature enough to do that. Following the documentary's release, Steve Shirilla was placed on administrative leave from his position at Mary Queen of Peace School in Cleveland. The school sent an email to parents notifying them of an investigation into allegations that one of their teachers had demonstrated poor judgment. The reaction online was immediate. One widely shared comment read, "These parents have a lot of attitude for people who let their minor daughter live with her boyfriend. They created this through their absolute indifference to giving her a single consequence." That's not a fringe take. That's the dominant response from people who watched that documentary. And it raises a question the trial never fully answered. How much of what happened on that road in Strongsville was shaped by years of having absolutely no guardrails at all?
I struggled with this because
relief and guilt.
Because how can I feel bad that these two boys died and feel grief with these families and then be absolutely overjoyed that my kid is alive?
It's been almost 3 years since the deadly crash in Strongsville that killed Mackenzie Shirilla's boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and their friend, Davion Flanagan. Now, Shirilla's parents are speaking out, insisting that the justice system got it wrong.
Show me one piece of evidence, one, that says she did this on purpose. Show it to me. Here it is. That's it. Then she's right where she belongs, and she's guilty of it. But there isn't any.
Here's the detail that haunts this case, more than any other. When first responders arrived at the scene, an officer radioed, "This car's split in two." Another said, "Holy smokes, last thing you expect to see." A third added, "This is the worst crash I've ever seen." Investigators determined Shirilla had smashed through a sign before the impact split the car in half against the brick building. Officers found her trapped between the driver's seat and the door, unconscious but still breathing. Russo and Flanagan were dead. Firefighters eventually pried the door open and pulled her from the wreckage. She was airlifted to a hospital. Prosecutors argued the angle of impact and the positioning of each person mattered. Dominic was in the passenger seat, directly in the path of maximum impact. Davion was in the back. The defense argued the opposite, that her survival proved it wasn't intentional, that nobody deliberately drives into a wall at 100 miles per hour and expects to survive. Both of those arguments are logical. Both were made in court. The judge chose one of them. On August 14, 2023, Mackenzie Shirilla was found guilty on all counts: 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, drug possession, and possessing criminal tools. She was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. She appealed. The 8th District Court of Appeals found no merit and upheld the conviction. The Ohio Supreme Court declined to even review the case. She is currently incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville. Her first parole hearing is expected in September 2037. At her sentencing, Mackenzie read a statement.
I would like Mackenzie to address the court.
Mackenzie, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. It's up to you. Okay? You can sit if it's more comfortable, whatever's better for you.
The families of Dom and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away. And I'm so sorry. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. I love you all so much. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dominic's own father, Frank Russo, said after the trial, "It's horrible for everybody. Yeah, I lost my son. It's harder on our family. But I don't want the rest of her life ruined too. It isn't going to make me feel any better. The whole thing's just a shame." The father of the boy who died in that car. Make of that what you will. And then there's Davion Flanagan, 19 years old. He wasn't part of any conflict. He wasn't involved in whatever was happening between Mackenzie and Dominic. He got into that car, and he never came home. His family has largely stayed out of the spotlight. But they lost someone that morning just as completely as anyone else in this story. Someone who had nothing to do with whatever brought that car to that road at that hour. That part of this story doesn't get enough attention, and it should. The Netflix documentary has brought all of this back. New footage, new interviews, those jail calls circulating everywhere, and a public conversation that clearly never really closed. What remains uncertain, and what even people who accept the verdict still debate, is what was happening inside Mackenzie Shirilla's mind in those final seconds. Whether this was something calculated and cold. Whether it was a moment of rage that crossed a line no one can come back from. Whether there is some other explanation that never made it into that courtroom. Those questions are still out there. The court answered them. But courts don't always end arguments. Sometimes they just formalize them. What isn't in dispute The black box showed the accelerator at full pressure, and the brakes never touched. The vehicle had no defects. 2 weeks before, someone heard her say she would do it. And then she did. I don't need to be rehabilitated. Maybe the most unsettling thing about that call isn't what she said. It's how certain she sounded saying it. Dominic Russo was 20 years old. He was building his own clothing line. His father called him a go-getter. Anything but average. Davion Flanagan was 19. He had everything still ahead of him. They're not here to tell their side of what happened in that car. And somewhere between accident, rage, and intention, that truth still sits. Now tell me what you concluded. After the black box data, the prior threats, the jail call, the parents, the survival question, what do you actually think happened in that car? Leave it below. And if someone you know has been following this case, send this to them. That conversation is worth having.